There, that's the right one. Hey, welcome everyone. Gosh, what is it? Like the fourth week of this thing? This thing is firing right on through. We've got a few more folks coming on. So, of course, in the regular fashion, I want to make sure that my audio and so forth and video is working. So I'm going to say, can you see and hear me? Let me know if you can see and hear me okay. And then we will start off this Monday morning class. Holy smoke, Monday morning. Ooh. All right. Raquel says, yep. Heliana says, yep. Okay, great. Yeah, hey, hats off to you guys for being up and at 'em on a Monday morning, 8 o'clock class, right? I mean, I know when we sign up for classes, we're like, okay, this works with my schedule. It'll be great. Oh, I can handle it. But then as the semester rolls on, you're like, oh my gosh, why did I sign up for a morning class? Hey, fantastic. Hey, Lena is with us. Great. Thank you. Okay, so we've got a few things we want to do today. I want to talk a little bit about team meetings. I'm just going to introduce some things. I'm going to introduce some things on presentations and so forth. We're going to talk in depth about doing webinars and virtual meetings, things like that. But to lead all that off, I want to first talk about our teams a little bit, okay? I really want you to recognize and embrace that this is a tough time for our teams, and that is normal. That is 100% normal, right? I promised you that you were going to have the best team experience that you've ever had at Slick, but that doesn't mean that it would be, I'm sorry, I'm adjusting some things here. That doesn't mean it would be an easy team experience. Teams are never easy. Teams are never easy. It's just a fact, right? Well, the reason though I could promise you the best team experience is because we don't just throw you in teams and say, all right, sink or swim. We go through a process. And this last week, you studied up on the Tuckman model a great deal. You studied up on forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. And then you also watched some videos about how to move from each one of these stages, from forming to storming, storming to norming, norming to performing, okay? Right now, you are all in forming and maybe transitioning into storming. You're probably starting to experience some storming. Now, what does this look like? It looks like you're not getting responses from all of your team members. Not everybody is making themselves available. A lot of people are kind of holding on to their individuality. I can't meet at this time. I really don't want to do this. Or I can only be available from this time to this time on this one small date. And you're like, well, we really need to get together as a team. And then other people might be saying, I don't see why we need to go through this team builder. Why don't we just fill out the form and be fine? And hey, you know what? I can't really be available. Can you just go ahead and fill out the form this time and we'll kind of meet up later on? That's forming to storming stuff, right? That is very normal, okay? I don't hold that against anybody because that's normal at this stage. It's not until we go through storming and start to get to norming and performing that we understand and embrace the fact that we're on a team. Right now, most of you have not yet embraced the fact that you're on a team. It's just kind of this annoying inconvenience that's a reality of the class, and so you're going through the motions, fine, whatever, right? Again, no judgment, folks. This is normal. When I'm on a new team, I do the very same thing. When anybody is on a new team, they do the very same thing. When the Avengers were on a new team, they did the very same thing. So, it is an invitation for you to be patient with one another, be patient with yourselves, and understand that it's going to take some time for folks to come together, and it's going to take a little bit of ugliness, that storming that we talked about. But don't forget, you can move from storming to norming, and you know how to move from storming to norming because of the videos we talked about, and we're going to talk more about meetings and so on and so forth today. But just so you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and you're not broken. Your team is not broken. You are not broken as an individual. You are going through a process that is necessary for a good team. Okay? So be patient with one another. Be patient with yourselves. That said, we got to get together. I mean, I just went through this big preamble to say, hey, be cool, man. Be chill. On the other hand, yeah, we've got to keep things going, and that's what we're going to do in this class. We're going to keep things going. So in order to do that, I want to ask a few things. First of all, let me know if anyone on the team is just plain incommunicado, not communicating at all. All right. I don't mean, okay, well, we've talked with them a few times and they're kind of having a hard time getting engaged and there's a lot going on in their life. And so we're kind of giving them some space. That's all totally cool, right? But if there is somebody on your team who is just plain, you're not even sure if they exist, you haven't heard from them, please let me know. You are not throwing them under the bus. You are not throwing them under the bus. You are escalating to me so that I can help get them engaged, okay? It doesn't mean F, it doesn't mean chastising, no. It's simply saying that, hey, we think this person, there might be something in the way of them getting engaged, they might need some extra help, they might need some extra guidance, we haven't heard from them. Please, Lon, would you do me a favor, reach out to them and kind of help get them involved? And I can totally do that, all right? Because it takes a while to get together as teams, it's going to take, there's going to be some missed points and some missed opportunities. But as you all know, there's so much extra credit available in this class that anybody can catch up. So even if you are online with us right now and you're watching live, or if you're watching this video later on, and you're kind of sheepishly thinking, well, I'm the one who hasn't been communicating. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be successful in this class. Is it too late to drop? I am so screwed. There's no way I'm going to catch up. No. You're not screwed. You can totally catch up. You're going to be fine. Communicate with me. All right? There is always a solution. And I am the bearer of solutions. So do not give up. Do not get despondent. Don't get down on yourself. All right? We can make this work. Okay. So that's my quick, hey, we're coming together as teams. Now, this is important because, all right, so if you remember, I said, hey, at the beginning of this class, we're just collecting tools for our toolkit. And these were things like, purpose, audience, channels, format, messaging, tone, things like that. And we've discussed that in this class. Well, we've got all these cool tools in our toolkit. Well, now we got to practice playing with them. We're going to start using them just a little bit. And the way we're going to do this is in an assertions video assignment. All right, this is the second module when you look at Canvas. As a matter of fact, I should go ahead and pull up Canvas. So let me go ahead and do that here real quick, folks. Sorry, I did not have that up and running already. And we're going to come here to Canvas, and I'll go ahead and come over here, and it says, yeah, sign in. Let's see if it makes me do the duo. Hey, I'm in. Okay. So just as a quick reminder, remember right here in Unit 2, which is what we start next week, but hey, we're going to talk about it now. We are going to practice the techniques by making assertions. So we're actually going to create a video. Your team will create a video in which you will make an assertion. We will talk more about what that means later on, probably, well, definitely next week. But here's the quickie, all right? You and your team will make a video in which you help Salt Lake Community College students figure out how to resolve conflict. So there is your purpose, your audience, and your channel. Purpose, how to resolve conflict. Audience, Salt Lake Community College students. Channel, a video, short video. Don't worry, short video. And that is what you will use to make sure we're still good there. Yep. That is what you will do. Sorry, I got distracted there. That is what you will do to practice using these tools. Now, here's the thing. The reason it's practice is I am deciding the purpose, I am deciding the audience, and I am deciding the channel. So you guys don't have to worry about that. All you have to do is worry about coming together as a team to actually produce a product. So the real point of this Unit 2, yes, it's to practice using the techniques that we've learned, but the real purpose is to come together as a team. Because through Unit 2, you want to get through the storming phase and into norming, so that by the time you get on to Unit 3 there, you're totally in norming and maybe even performing, okay? So we'll talk more about that later, but this is why I need to know now if folks are not coming together and communicating as a team, so that I can help get them all lined up for this upcoming little mini project, okay? So with that, let me first, before we get into that, let me first ask if there, oh, Simran, you're with us, fantastic. Let me ask if there are any questions from what we've just gone over right there. I'm making some adjustments here so I can see things. Any questions on coming together as teams and what our priority is in terms of why we're coming together in teams at this time? By the way, I know that anybody who's actually present is probably someone who's already there and so forth, and people who are watching are people who are already there and engaged. So I get that, but I want to ask anyway. I'll give a moment for folks to respond. Any questions? Maybe if I spell it right. When I do live streaming, I have to position my equipment differently so I have a decent background, which means my keyboard is not in the normal place. And if you don't have any questions, just do me a favor and hit a quick nope. That way I know you've seen this and that are, okay, not for now. All right, Heliana says not for now. That's fine. I like the caveat. Okay, good. L'Oreal, fantastic. Nope. All right. Then this is what we're going to do. Thank you, Lena and Chris. Oh, Chris, you're with us. Fantastic. All right. So now we're going to actually move on. Hey, Stephen. We're going to talk about team communication today. I know I say it a lot, and I know I get kind of animated when I talk about it, but it's one of these cases of where I want to scream it so loud from the mountaintops so that I'll be heard. But, you know, it's really important. Everything comes down to communication. Everything comes down to communication. Everything comes down to communication. As you know from the very first video I made that you saw there, right? Really bad back then, but hey, it worked. Communication is the most powerful force in the whole universe that we can wield, all right? Nothing beats communication. And when it comes to working effectively as a team, it is all about communication. Now, the reason we resist communication is that it's frickin' hard. it's painful, it's unpleasant, and if you just don't care about the team or the process, then you just assume avoid it. I get it. I really get it. Okay. But we're going to be together in this team for another, I don't know, what is it, 8 weeks or so. And we're going to do some great stuff with it, 8 or 9 weeks. So we really want to learn how to do this, because even though the team disappears in 8 weeks, the skills that you're learning, the skills that you're taking away from this on how to form and work in an effective team, I want you to take these with you to the corporate world, especially if you want to work in leadership. If you want to work in leadership, understanding how to form and work in effective teams is absolutely mandatory. Don't even pretend for a moment that you can be an effective leader, manager, supervisor, I don't care what, if you do not know how to bring people together and make the whole greater than the sum of its parts. Leadership is defined by the ability to bring people together under a common umbrella, a common vision, a common cause, a common purpose. So this is leadership training. All right, there's my diatribe, but I'm telling you, this stuff is real. Okay, so it's all about communication. We're going to talk about communication here today. Wrong one. There we go. Okay, now there's a few things. First of all, there is a video in Canvas, one of my Nutshell Brainery videos on effective meetings. Watch the video on effective meetings, and yes, there is a quiz on that one, because effective meetings, here's the thing about a meeting, folks, is we love to hate them, and for damn good reason. 99.97% of all meetings ever held are awful. I mean, physically painful. And yet, this is how business is done. So I want you to be the 0.3% of the population who knows how to plan, hold, run, and follow up on an effective meeting, because it's a superpower. If you know how to hold effective meetings, you can get a lot done. Now, it takes work, which is why most meetings are lousy. The reason most meetings are lousy is because nobody wants to put in the work. They just schedule it on the calendar, they show up to the room, and they all look at each other and wait for the hour to pass, right? No. It takes a lot of work to have an effective meeting. You'll want to learn how. All right? That is all provided. Here, we'll point over here. That's provided in the video. You're also going to watch some videos on giving, receiving, and asking for feedback. This is team communication, okay? And this is so important. Now, by the way, good news, you're actually a member, most of you are a member of a winning generation. Your generation, actually, Generation Z and into millennials, but mostly Generation Z. So if you are around 26 or under, 26 years old or under, you're part of Generation Z or pretty close to it. And Generation Z actually receives feedback, knows how to work with feedback just about any other generation. Nevertheless, we really want to make sure that we are giving, receiving, and asking for feedback effectively in a way that can help us, help others, and help our relationships. You know, one of the reasons that feedback is so difficult is that it's relationship based, and it can sting, right? Or it can be difficult to deliver. The videos talk about all those aspects. So you'll want to watch those videos, and there is a quiz for those. And you want to practice it. You want to practice it. Practice it with each other. Practice it at work. Practice it with me, right? Give me feedback using these tools. And let's practice it, because feedback is like any other skill. You need to practice in order for you to really learn how to do it right. Okay. Then what are we doing today for this live stream lecture? Well, we are going to talk about conducting webinars. This is a webinar. This is a webinar. And webinars are a real staple of the workplace today. Now, of course, there's been a lot of webinars because of the coronavirus and so forth. But the truth is, companies all over the planet, and we'll talk about this, use webinars on a daily basis. And it's a form of internal business communication. I want you to know how to do these really, really well. And then we are going to talk about effective presentations. Oh my gosh. Presentations are the lifeblood of internal business communication. I'll tell you stories and so on and so forth, but knowing how to give a good presentation can really help make your career in the business world. So we're going to talk just a little bit about that, okay? So that's our agenda. I'm not going to pause for questions, but as always, if you have any questions, just go ahead and pop them up right here. I'm keeping an eye on that, and we'll start flying forward with this. We're not doing the lawn cam yet. Okay. All right, conducting a webinar. All right, so here's what we're going to look at. There's actually a lot involved in doing a really good webinar. All right, we're going to talk about why they're important in business, selecting our format, roles, responsibilities, the technology, what to do before, during, and after the webinar. So there's a lot that we're going to cover here. And by the way, I will use this webinar right here, right? This dude right here. I'll use this as an example of where I'm doing it well and where I'm doing it poorly. Okay, I'm not following all the rules of webinar here. So we'll use this as an example. All right. Okay, so first of all, webinars and business communication. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. All right. So first of all, the really nice thing about a webinar is it is a very rich communication medium, meaning lots of channels going on right now, right? So here's the thing. First of all, you've got my face, you've got my, facial expressions, right? You've got my tonality, you've got some body language, which means I feel like a Tyrannosaurus Rex when I'm trying to do hand gestures because the camera's up here. But you have some body language there. And furthermore, I can bring in, well, heck, I can bring in these who's and what's it's, these PowerPoint presentations. We can have some level of back and forth with the comments and so forth. So it's fairly rich. Now, of course, this doesn't even compare to a classroom experience. A classroom experience is, of course, the absolute richest you can get in terms of communication, but it's not a bad second. So companies who can't, have a company of 80,000 people all in a room together to do training and so forth, companies really rely on webinars. Another nice thing is they can be either synchronous, live, or asynchronous, recorded. So right now we've got 10 people with us. We've got 10 folks that are present with us right now who are experiencing this synchronously. But this is going to be published online. So I'll have another 20 or 30 students who will watch this asynchronously. And yet they have access to the same information. So pretty nice. Also allows for some level of Q&A. So every once in a while I ask a question and I get responses and so forth, or if you want some clarification, you can do that. So they're pretty nice that way. When it comes to webinars in business, training a distributed workforce. Distributed meaning not everybody's in the same building, right? You've got employees all over the state, all over the country, all over the frickin' world. And you got to train these people. How are you going to do that? Well, it's a great way to train a distributed workforce. Also, great way for conducting company-wide meetings. Once again, today's companies are distributed all over the planet. And so you need ways that you can hold meetings like this. And then a great way of leading project teams. So you guys are part of a distributed project team. Every one of your teams, none of you are bunking together. You're all part of a distributed project team. And so that's why these sort of online meetings and collaborative sessions can be really, really powerful. And that's what webinars are related to. Okay, so that brings me to format. Now, what we're doing right now is a single speaker format. All right, I'm the only dude here. All right, I'm conducting the technology. I'm running the technology. I'm monitoring the comment board there, and I'm presenting the stuff. So really nice, because it means it's really easy to coordinate. All I have to do is remind my family that I'm live streaming, so no gaming for a little while, and that's it. That's all the coordination I need to do. Here's the thing, though, is can influence perception of authority and credibility if the lead speaker is also doing all the logistical grunt work. So, for example, all right, right now I'm your instructor and you're willing to give me some slack in terms of, all right, I'm managing the technology here. But when I'm doing my consulting work, yes, I'm a consultant and a corporate trainer, and I conduct professional webinars all the time. It kind of looks a little amateurish if I'm the only person running it. And that's something that concerns me. It's something that I need to try to figure out how to address. Maybe find somebody who can help run it with me. We'll talk more about that here in just a sec. Okay. Then we've got interview style. Yeah, that's the next one. Interview style. Interview style is totally cool. Basically means that I'm here with somebody else and I'm interviewing them. The really nice thing about that is more engaging to hear multiple voices. I don't know if any of you listen to podcasts, but just about every single successful podcast out there has two hosts, and they're often interviewing other people. Now, even if it's just one host, they're definitely interviewing other folks. I want to start a podcast, but I'm just one dude, and I'm telling you, listening to this voice for 20 minutes with no facial and no this, that, and the other, people would rather die. And so the really nice thing about the interview style is it allows for multiple voices. Fact that the interviewer is asking the questions of the expert often encourages attendees to do the same. So if I were interviewing someone right now, I would probably see a lot more questions from you guys. All right. I get it. You're just kind of chilling right now. You're paying attention to this. You might have another screen up right now where you're surfing, checking social media and so on. I understand that. But if I were interviewing somebody, you would probably be more engaged. Okay. Cons, well, there's more people to train and more schedules to coordinate. And if the person isn't present and I'm doing it online, well, then I have to count on them knowing how to work their own technology and stuff. So that gets a little tricky. Okay. Moderated panel discussion. It's like an interview on steroids. And instead of, me talking with one person, I put together a whole panel and we ask questions of them and so forth. I'm going to tell you, this is really tough to do over a webinar. I have not seen many done really super successfully, it can be done. But most of the time, it just creates more challenges than it's worth. So I tend to stray away from this one. Okay. And then we have interactive. This is where attendees fully participate in the webinar. Now, here's the thing. If we were running this over, say, Zoom, you could participate more. You would have your picture up. You would have you could speak, right? And you could be, that would be the ultimate in terms of online engagement. So why haven't I done that? Well, here's the thing. Now, right now we have 10 people with us, all right? Actually, that's not bad for Zoom. That's not bad. But if you start to get to 15, 20, 25 people in a Zoom meeting, it gets a little chaotic. And so this interactive model that we're looking at here is really best if we have small teams. All right. So, for example, if you and your team wanted to meet with me on anything, we would totally do Zoom, right? A video where everybody can speak. Okay. Now, when it comes to a really well done webinar, all right, there are several roles and responsibilities that you'll want to account for. One is the speaker, the SME, the subject matter expert. SME. We call them SMEs. So there's some business jargon for you. I'm the SME. I'm the subject matter expert. I'm the sage on the stage. I'm the one here speaking and so forth. I'm the one who's done a quadrillion webinars. I'm the one who has conducted and attended a quadrillion webinars. I've researched them. So I have subject matter expertise. But then you also want the organizer, an organizer and facilitator. Now, right now, I am the organizer and facilitator. That means that I've handled all the logistics and the registration process. You know, if we had other people here, we would be moderating. There we go. We would be moderating the discussion. And furthermore, if I had an organizer and facilitator, I would be encouraging a ton more questions, because what a moderator would do in this sort of thing is they would keep an eye on the comments section, right? We see our comments section right here at the bottom of my, right there. There's our comment section. I'm keeping an eye on it. But now, if I had a moderator here, the moderator would be really keeping an eye on that. And then every once in a while, I would call upon the moderator and say, hey, so what kind of questions have we have? And he or she would say things like, oh, well, you know, we've had a lot of comments around, you know, why is it done this way? Or have you ever tried this or that sort of thing? So the moderator would be really good. As a matter of fact, you know what I ought to do, guys? I ought to do this. I ought to offer extra credit to a student who is willing to moderate the comment section. And then what I would do is I would really encourage comments, questions, so on and so forth, maybe offer points for them. So here's the idea. If you offer comments or questions and so forth here, I would offer points. We would keep track of that. And then I would give extra credit to a moderator who could then write. I ought to try that. Let me know if you think that'd be a good idea. Let me know if you think that would be kind of fun to try. And if you do, we'll give that a whirl. I like it. Okay, moving on. Then we have assistants. We have the technical assistant. Because this technology goes haywire all the time. And rather than have the subject matter expert, the person who's actually conducting this, sit here and try to figure out technical issues and so forth, it's nice to have a technical assistant who can work one-on-one with anybody who might need some help. This is especially important when you're dealing with people who rarely attend webinars and you're dealing with technology that requires you to kind of do some fancy schmancy stuff to the computer, or frankly, if you're working with old folks. So for example, when I send you a link to the YouTube, live stream, you know what to do with it. You click on it, you make sure your speakers are working, and you're good, right? I send that link to, old people, and they're like, what do I do with this? And it's like, oh man, technical assistance. So Stephen, incentivizing additional participation would likely increase engagement for me during our, yeah, right, Stephen? I think so too. I think it would increase engagement. So I think I'm going to give this a whirl. Thank you for chiming in on that. Okay. This brings us to the technology. Oh my gosh, there are so many options out there. So many options, right? You got Zoom, WebEx, Skype, Google Hangouts, YouTube Livestream, Facebook Video, Adobe Connect, GoToMeeting, tons. Hey, Christopher just said one setback may be that we would be more focused on asking questions than actually listening. It's a funny thing. You're right, Christopher. It's a funny thing. It's like when you're having a conversation and you're not listening, you're waiting to speak. That's not a good conversation. So that's a good call out. So tools to consider here. There's a ton of options. It really just comes down to what is the right tool to fit your needs, right? So how many people do you need to be able to accommodate? How much does it cost? What features do you need? Do you need desktop sharing? Do you need document sharing, temporary presenter capability, remote control, chat, polls, things like that? So, for example, for this, I've chosen live stream because I can use OBS. And for you live stream nut jobs out there, you know what OBS is. And it allows me the opportunity to bring in lots of technology. I can also post it to YouTube so that others can see it. And sometimes, like right now, we have 11 people with us. But if I get 20 or 30 or so forth, I can accommodate an seemingly infinite number of folks, right? Whereas if I'm meeting with a smaller team, or if I'm doing a one-on-one with you, say virtual office hours or something, we're totally going to Zoom, right? That is the right way to go. Now, you guys you can set up a free Zoom account. You have access to WebEx through Canvas, and of course there's Skype, Google Hangouts, and so forth. You have lots and lots of options in terms of how to communicate, which is why one of the questions that was in the team charter that you completed was, how are you going to collaborate? What technology are you going to use to collaborate? It would have been good for you to kind of figure out, well, let's use this kind of streaming technology. Okay. Things to do before your webinar. So you got to prepare for these damn things. Trust me, you got to prepare. So first thing, plan your visuals here, right? Webinars rely heavily on audio and visual. I'm going to go ahead and confess, I don't think I've done a terribly good job in putting together the visuals. Now, I'll tell you what I have done well. What's it? The comments that are down below, they're in a dark background, right? And then my back set here is wood colored and so forth. So I've made sure that my visuals kind of use the dark and brown and so forth so that it flows in. So here's the thing. I feel like color-wise it works and it's consistent. I'm not sure I like the look. I'm not sure it's consistent. And I sure don't do a very good job in pulling together compelling slides and animation. I should do better there. So that's something, because you could be falling asleep to these things. Okay, create an agenda and stick to it. And that's what I did. I laid out an agenda. We've gone through it step by step, and we're sticking to the agenda. Do not stray. Let's see. Reserve space and equipment. Oh, yeah. I mean, totally, right? You've got to worry about a lot of technology things. Now, in the case of, for me, it's my own studio office here, right? But I've had to plan this out a lot. I have to plan out, having access to the Wi-Fi and to my broadband, because I live with a whole bunch of other people who like to live on the internet. So I've got to plan that out. I have to make sure I have time to set things up. It takes me about 10, 15 minutes to set things up properly. And that's in my own home. Imagine if you were doing this at a company. You really want to make sure that everything is working in that room, because you know what I'm talking about. You've gone to meetings where they have spent the first 10 minutes trying to set things up. It's maddening, right? So you want to make sure that's working. Every single time when the counter goes down and it says, hey, we're starting this live stream, and I always say, hey, can you see and can you hear me? That's me testing my technology, because I just know one day it's going to poop out on me. Okay. Schedule a dry run, folks. If this is your first webinar, or even if it's not, and you're using different technologies, get with a friend and test it. That's what I mean by schedule a dry run. So, for example, Salt Lake Community College has been conducting a whole bunch of free business webinars and development webinars for the public at large. I'm conducting one on Friday, and then the next Friday, my business partner conducted some. She and I, now, we know this technology. We're not, neophytes or Luddites, but we always test the technology first with each other to make sure that it's working right. And I'll be doing that with her on Thursday, because I'm conducting the webinar on Friday. Well, what do you mean testing it, Lon? It's always a good idea to test it, even if you know what you're doing. Okay. Send out instructions. Now, you guys are smart. You know that all you have to do for one of these Who's and What's It live streams is click on the link and have your audio up and running. You know that. But with different technologies and different platforms and different audiences, send out instructions to say how to set up your system so you can conduct the webinar. Okay, things to do during the webinar, like right now. Let's see if Lon is doing these things. Yeah, I am recording it. I'm recording this so that we can go ahead and have it for the asynchronous audience. Muting all the phones. This one's... So since this particular platform, YouTube live stream, does not allow you to use audio, I don't have to worry about muting the phones. But if we were on Zoom, yeah, we'd have to worry about that. This is hilarious. You could search the internet and find some hilarious examples of people who did not have their phones on mute when they're doing something. The most recent case that is just a hoot is the U.S. Supreme Court. You heard that right. The U.S. Supreme Court recently held their first online open to the public deliberations, right? This is the court, people, the highest court of the land, all that sort of stuff. And during all this, because all the justices were at home, everybody was home, quarantine, you know all about that. Well, during the deliberations, during the discussions and so forth, you could hear a toilet flushing. Somebody, either in the Supreme Court or presenting or defending before the Supreme Court, was in the bathroom. So, yeah, put the phones on mute. Okay. Use chat tool for questions. We're using the chat tool, so I'm doing that right. And stick to the agenda. We're sticking to our agenda. So I'm doing those sort of things correctly. And then allow for questions at the end. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the asking question slide. Do me a favor. Either tell me if you have attended a webinar before. Tell me what worked or what didn't work with the webinar that you attended, or ask a question about what we've just discussed, or Tell me something that you think I could do to make these better. So think about those and go ahead and chime in over the next minute. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got here. So, there we go. There's a delay. There's about a 6-second delay. So every once in a while I have to chill out and just wait. Okay, so Stephen, what would you say would be an appropriate length for a public-facing informational webinar? Hey, that's a really good question. Length, right? So here's the thing. It is actually much more difficult for you guys. It's much more difficult for you guys to maintain a hard level of focus over a webinar than if we were in the classroom. So when I conduct these 2-hour things, that is too damn long. Okay. I would not go over 90 minutes, and even 90 minutes I think is really out there. And when I say 90 minutes, Stephen, I say, listen, you would do like maybe an hour of material, right? And then maybe, with a break in there, and then some ample time for question answer. That way, if people want to drop off during the question answer, they can. But, these things, gosh, I have seen them go 2.5, 3 hours. That is nuts with a capital N. All right. So you got to really understand that your audience, you guys right now, you're struggling to stay engaged. I understand that. It's not your fault. It's the medium. Okay. Let's see. Christopher says, I've attended webinars. There are multiple presenters, but there weren't any video recordings available if you missed the meeting. That sucks. That sucks because not everybody can make it. So I'm sorry they did not record that. By the way, it's an interesting thing I have found for myself. So you might disagree. Totally cool. I have found for myself it's easier for me to stay engaged if I am watching live than if I'm watching a recording. Because right now, you and I can feel like we're having a discussion. I know it doesn't quite feel like that. I get it. But at least you feel like you're part of it. Whereas you folks who are watching this as a recording right now, you're like, is he really talking to me? Right? So that's been my experience. Riley struggles with internet connection. Yeah, gosh. And I've run into that a ton as the presenter. It's a mess. Hiram, for my work, we are using Skype for business. No one in the company actually uses the camera. I like joining the meetings where we can actually see each other. Yeah, a lot of folks, here's the funny thing. All right, right now I have removed the option of a camera for you, and so it's not as rich as it could be. But mark my word, in another class, I do Zoom because I've only got 7 or 8 students. Everybody but one turns their camera off. So not everybody wants that camera aspect. Very good. Okay. Very good, guys. Thank you for participating in that. All right, this is what we're going to do then. We'll come back to our presentation. Now we are going to talk, and this is short, all right? So we've only got a little bit of time left, but this one does require more engagement, all right? This is a short segment, but it requires input from you. So get your thinking cap on for like 15 more minutes, and we'll be copacetic. All right. So you've all attended presentations, lectures, training, seminars, business presentations. You have all attended presentations. You are attending one right now, okay? And a lecture is a presentation. You've all attended. Therefore, tell me what makes a great presentation. You've all attended them. Think back to presentations, lectures, seminars, training that really worked for you. What made them awesome? Okay? Everybody chime in. Okay, let's take a look at this. So, by the way, you should all know that when Hiram wrote treats, I laughed out loud. That it's funny, but it's true. All right. There's no better way to increase attendance than to include treats. People are attracted to food. Absolutely. Very good. So Laurel said, personable and humor. Yeah, it's kind of a performance art giving a presentation. And people who don't really understand that they are performing and you need to bring some level of personality and humor to the room, that they don't do so well. So absolutely. Incentives, yes, incentives for participation, such as if I offered points, right? Or incentives for contributing, for attending. Yes. Heliana, the presenters able to engage with the audience. Engagement is everything. Oh my gosh. We as professors, we go through all kinds of training and we have all kinds of discussion, and there's no silver bullet, but we are constantly trying to find ways to be more engaging because we owe it to you. And the more engaging we are, the better learning experience you have. It's tough. So I totally agree. Engaging. Let's see, Christopher, the presenters are the face of the presentation and they will add their own personality to the presentations for better or for worse. Yeah, that's, it's a funny thing you say that, Christopher. So I have a theory that there are bad teachers, but bear with me. Same thing with managers. It's not, when students come to me and say, hey, who's a really good teacher? It's kind of, what are you looking for, right? There are some personality traits that you're like, oh, I totally can relate to that person. And then there's others that are like, I can't stand that person. So for example, I've had students who will follow me from class to class. They'll take different classes from me because whatever style I bring to the classroom works for them. But I've had other students who drop the class halfway through and say, if I never have to hear from you again, it'll be too soon, right? So yeah, for better or for worse. That's well put. Laurel, yeah, totally agree. Alicia, a presenter is actually presenting on a topic you enjoy. And Alicia, if you don't mind me adding to that, you can tell if the presenter is presenting on a topic that they enjoy, right? That passion and that commitment and that desire to convey and communicate comes through, I think. Stephen, first, make sure the audience knows why the material is relevant. Yes. Ask good questions and guides the audience to begin to think about how they can apply the information immediately. Yes, and that's why I try to take the time to say, this matters in your corporate career, in if you want to be a leader, you need to know how to work as a team, that sort of thing and so forth. It's not just here's an idea for idea's sake. It's here's how you can use this for your personal and professional benefit. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, so here's what we're going to do then, folks. Wrong button. So, you know what makes a great presentation. You've attended them. You know what they are. Now, let me ask you this. And I have wrong monitor selected. Same thing. I'll pull up the question slide. What makes for the worst, most lousy presentation? You've attended them. You've attended lectures and seminars and trainings that you are like, just take me now, right? What makes them so awful? So give me your thoughts there. Okay, this is hilarious. I'll tell you why. So when I asked what makes for a great presentation, I had the usual pause in the responses, right? It takes about 20 seconds or so for me to ask the question and then for folks to start to respond. And I saw that response when I asked what makes for a great presentation. When I asked what makes a lousy presentation, I didn't even finish my sentence before I got responses. That really says a lot, right? And we'll come back to that. Most presentations are not as good as they could be. We'll come back to it. So let's look at what folks have said. Let's see. Riley, slow talkers. Oh, gosh, yes. And then I'm going to combine this one with one that Laurel said, which was a monotone, little movement. Okay, it's really true. Tonality means a lot. It's a strange, strange thing. So watch for a second. I said tonality means a lot. It's a strange, strange thing. Compare that to tonality means a lot. It's a strange, strange thing. Oh my gosh, if you had to put up with that kind of slow talk for 90 minutes, you would drop off. And people do that. It's like, what are you thinking? You're so right, both of you. Okay, Bad organization. I'm going to put this one, so Alicia said bad organization. Christopher said technical issues and waiting. Lena said the presenter is not ready, needs to still set up. I hate this. I really do. Here's the thing. I feel that my time is the most important and most finite resource I have. Now, I could go on and on about that. I've written a frickin' book. Literally, I wrote a book about it. My time is a finite resource, and it's my most precious resource. It is the most, perishable resource in the world. That minute that just went by, you're never seeing it again. So when I show up at 8 o'clock, I expect the presenter to be up and running and ready to go at 8 o'clock. And you have seen, I have tried to do this for you. But if I have to sit around for 10 minutes while the presenter is getting their act together, that's infuriating. I so agree with you guys. And then bad organization, that goes for the presentation itself. If it's not linear, if it doesn't tell a story, if it's not going somewhere. Yeah. Stephen, when the presenter doesn't make their intentions clear, audience wondering why they are there. Are they going to try to sell me something at the end? Is this going to be in the quiz? Why am I here? Why are we going over this? Yes, you guys are busy. You're busy. All right? You have limited time, limited energy, and limited resources. You are constantly trying to figure out, where am I going to invest this? And so if you go to a presentation and, like Stephen says, you have no idea what the intention is, where this is going, why it even matters, what am I going to do with this information? Total turnoff, right? You've got it. You've got it. So here's the thing then, folks, is, and I gotta go to this one and click here. And don't worry, I'm not going to go to any more of the question slides here. So here's the thing. You already know what makes a great presentation. And you already know what makes a lousy presentation. So if that's the case, why are so many presentations so bad? Think about it. The majority that you go to, I don't know if it's fair to say majority, but I'm going to say majority. The majority of presentations that I go to are bad. They break a lot of the rules that you guys pointed out down here. Why? Well, here's the thing. A good presentation is hard work. It's hard work. You got to really plan for it. You need to really get your ducks in a row. If you're going to have great slides, if you're going to be compelling, if you're going to be humorous and personable, if you're going to have passion around what you do and good information and all that good stuff, it takes a hell of a lot of preparation. Okay? Whereas it's a lot easier to just show up and wing it. And that never works. Never works. I'm going to leave this topic with this quote right here from Mark Twain. There are two types of speakers, those who get nervous and those who are liars. You know what? And I'll confess, even I get nervous when I start this. It's a weird thing. So at the very beginning, when I have that starting soon slide that I just showed you, and there's that countdown timer on it, and it starts to get down to 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, 6. I start to kind of wig out a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh. So yeah, it can be nerve-wracking, but practice makes perfect. Practice, practice, practice. Presenting is a skill and an art form and a science, and it takes practice. But learn to do it well, and it will add to your success exponentially. I'm going to tell you one story, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm giving a presentation when I was at Intel Corporation, and we had a new operations manager just hired on, moved to Utah for the job. And so he's kind of a mucky muck, right? He's up there. And I'm giving this presentation, And I've never met this guy before. He's never met me. And as I'm presenting, he leans over to my boss and says, you know what? I don't know anything about this project, but he's selling it. He's a good presenter. Just so you know, I'm on board with the project. So just by strength of my presentation alone, I was able to win support for the project. So, because he didn't have the data, he didn't have the background, he didn't understand the problem statement, he didn't know what we had tried before, he didn't have any of the history. But based on the strength of the presentation alone, we were able to win his support. That's what it can do for your career. That's what it can mean. Okay? So, bam, that's it, guys. A little shorter today, right? Only an hour instead of the hour 50. But I want to close in the same way I always do. Do you feel like you have everything you need to be successful this week? You're going to watch the presentation, the video on meetings. You're going to watch the videos on giving, receiving, and accepting feedback. You have quizzes for those, and you really want to make sure that you are working with your teams. Have some conversations, start communicating. If you do those things this week, you will be successful. Riley says yes, feels like set up for success. Everybody else, do you have any other questions? Laurel says you feel like you're set. That's good. Any questions at all? Eliana, yep. I just watched, it's the second time I watched it. There's a movie out there called Knives Out. It's a good movie. It's a whodunit murder mystery. And it's, I forget his name, but the actor who plays Captain America. Why can't I remember his name? Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. In any case, he's in it. And at one point he says, yep. And he does this great pop at the end of yep. And I can't do it. So now whenever I see yep, that's what I think about. Chris Evans, thank you. Thank you. Brickell, I'm embarrassed because I'm like the uber Marvel Universe fan, as you can tell from the videos I did on the Tuckman model. So the fact that I couldn't remember Chris Evans, embarrassing. Okay, it looks like you're set, folks. So this is what I'm going to do. We're wrapping up. We're all set. Have a fantastic week. Please reach out to me if you need any help and support. That's what I'm here for. And I'm going to stay online for a little bit as I put on the ending screen. So if you have any questions, you can fire them off and I'll be here. So otherwise, have a great week. We'll see you next week.